Hello, here we are from Hawaii, actually from the most beautiful island, Kauai. And I'm Gustavo Tolosa, the weekly webinar host for Dr. McDougall. And this, so far, has been one of the most amazing 4 days that I've had in a long, long time. So I want to introduce you to the one and only Dr. McDougall. How are you doing?
From Kauai.
From Kauai.
Not bad. We're in the dining room. We're enjoying the food. We have 150 happy customers and enjoying McDougall food.
Yes.
So kind of give them
I'm going to move the camera. I will try to not make you sick. And from the table where we're sitting, you can have a wonderful view of the ocean. And this is breakfast time for here now, but in the evening when the sun is setting, it's just incredible. And it goes on and on. It's a very large dining area. Kauai, why did you choose Kauai for the last time?
We've been to the Big Island. And
yes.
We've been there, I think, at least twice. At least we went to the Sheraton, we went to Mauna Lani on the Big Island. And then last year we went to the Sheraton Kauai, which is here. And the reason we picked the Sheraton again is because they did such a phenomenal job on the food. Not that the Mauna Lani didn't, or the Sheraton on the Big Island didn't. But this one, I think, was just a little bit better in terms of food quality.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people ask us, is this the same food we see for the 10-day program? And the answer is the same rules, but not the same foods. And I have to say, we have chocolate pudding at the McDougall program.
Right.
But that chocolate pie they had last night.
Oh, that chocolate pie was...
I'm sure, and the problem is that some people think that's the McDougall pie. Some of my detractors out there will actually be thrilled that we should show them a piece of the chocolate pie.
That's right.
See, this is proof that Dr. McDougall recommends half a bottle of sugar as your diet.
That's right.
And
but that's not what happens, what goes on in the 10-day program, though.
Nor here. The nice thing is, Gustavo, I'll tell you, is that I'm getting some detractors.
Mm-hmm.
The most difficult thing that I've had during my 50 years as a physician and 40 years doing this is to be ignored. In fact, today was kind of interesting on the discussion board. If you don't go to the discussion board, you're missing a real opportunity to keep up to date. I use the discussion board to keep me up to date on various things going on. And one of the things that I noted today, if I can get it up here for you, is when to start a solution. Well, I've been trying for many years. I'm the first to get publicity for what I do. And our books have been very successful. Our solution is gaining in popularity. That's the book I wrote in 2011.
Right.
All over the world. We just got the legal Italian publication pretty much completed. I think it'll be out in Italian within the next month. But it was kind of interesting going to the discussion board. It's the only way I learned about this. You should go to my discussion board also at drmcdougall.com. But today, the link to this discussion board leads you to this particular headline, and I will try and show it to you here. That is Dr. Oz. Take a look at it.
Right.
I hope you can see it. Dr. Oz called the vegan diet the single biggest movement of 2017. Excuse me, Dr. Oz, you're outdated by about 40 years. But I'm glad you're finally coming around. And I was scheduled to be on Oz's show September of 2016, but for some reason or another, I've never been there. My invitation has never been fulfilled.
Yes.
But here he goes. He has discovered.
Now he's
discovered the biggest single invention for 2017 is a vegan diet. You're way behind, man. You're way behind. And I'd be glad to come on the show and give you a big smile and have a discussion with you about some kind of juice berry or whatever else you want to talk about. You finally figured it out. Not only is it a vegan diet, but it's a low-fat.
It's a low-fat.
Starch-based. Starch-based. That's the crucial thing. That's the group. Yeah, it's a diet of rice and corn and potatoes. And Well, I don't know. I think the dining line's probably closed.
It is. It is closed, unfortunately. I was taking some pictures, although not as many as I wanted to, and I was putting on my Facebook page. But I'll put a link later on if you want to see pictures of the food.
It's quite a big.
It is truly. It's incredible because these are high-level creations of chefs. It's not the basic kind of food. So you just mentioned something that you mentioned in your first lecture. So far, we have done. Dr. McDougall has given 3 lectures. So every evening at 5, you do a lecture from 5 to 6. In the first, because the first one was on Monday.
I think Sunday.
Or Sunday.
So I may have given 5 lectures.
Monday,
you and I are just
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4.
We did. I did the colored picture book, which is
that's right. That was the first one.
It was on the website. It's on the website for free. It's in probably 24 languages. The actual starch solution slideshow, which is a PDF file.
Yes.
And then the lecture is free.
It is.
It's free. You don't have to come to Kauai, but it's free on the website, drmcdougall.com. It's a video. So I gave that on Sunday. And really, I look at the audience and I say to them, I thank you for your patience. You've heard this. They seem to enjoy it again. And then I think about me going to a concert. It's just like yourself. You play worldwide.
You never get tired of the live event.
You never get tired of seeing the performer live. And even though I'm standing up there sometimes, except I'm always having a good time.
There is nothing like seeing someone live. There's some kind of energy. On the second night, I guess, is when you talked about
questions and answers.
And one of the things you said that night was that a diet without starches leaves the person out of control in their eating, and how you tell people 80 to 90% of the plate basically is starches. Can you just say a little bit about why some people would be out of control in their hunger if there's not enough starch?
Well, I can give you a good example. Right now we're breathing air. That's 21% oxygen.
Right.
So if I drop the oxygen content down to say 10%, we probably this webinar will be over in 5 minutes.
Very soon.
Very soon. You have basic drives like breath, and it's satisfied by oxygen. It happens to be necessary that 20% of the content of this environment is oxygen. Thirst. There's a bar up there that serves vodka and gin right next to us. But you could drink as many, maybe vodka is 60% water. You get some satisfaction. But you could say it was 100%. What, 200 proof? It would take me back many years. You could drink it until you were falling down and you would die of thirst. So you need water. And then when you talk about hunger drive, you can eat as much as you want of, quote, food, but unless you provide what the body requires, which is carbohydrate, sugar, and in the form that we offer it, it's called starch, like rice, corn, potatoes. Unless you give yourself that necessary ingredient, just like unless you give yourself the necessary ingredient for breathing, oxygen, or for thirst, water, you'll be out of control. And there's just no other way to fix it. And as a result, you feel bad. You don't have energy. You eat way too many calories. That probably translates into too much food, certainly too much fat, and you become too fat. Coming to Hawaii, or actually any place in the world now these days, you don't have to have me to tell you this is a problem. Just look around. Just stand in the street. If you're in even Egypt or Russia or wherever you are, you just stop in the street and you look around and you go, my goodness, everybody's fat. Well, so it is in Kauai too.
And you mentioned that the highest level of obesity in children is in Mexico City. Is that right?
No, Mexico City is claimed to be the highest level of obesity of all people. The highest level in children, and this came up again because our Italian translations came out.
Yes.
So they asked me to write an introduction, which I did, and I haven't heard back from them, but assuming they accept it. I mentioned that Italy, their claim to fame, one of their claims to fame is they're number 2 in the world in terms of obesity in children. About 10% of the whole population in Italy is obese, whereas in the U.S., it's higher. It's 38% of the U.S. are obese. So there must be more obese Italians than I mentioned, 10%. But as far as children go in Italy, Italy outnumbers everybody except for Greece. Greece has the highest incidence of obesity in children in Italy. It's number 2, and I believe the U.S. is number 5. Anyway,
it is a worldwide.
It's an interesting problem. Sometime in my career, many times, as it is in your career, Gustavo, and it has been in many people's careers, where you get to a point in your life where you say you don't know what you're going to do next, but you say, I know what I'm doing now. I can't do anymore, and so you stop.
Right.
And that's an important decision. It's a hard one for everybody, anybody, all of us to make. And again, I don't want to get personally with you or with any people I know, but I think all great people, all people, but certainly people who've made a huge difference in life. They get to the point where they say, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I know what I've done in the past is wrong.
And I can't do it anymore.
I can't do it anymore, and I have to stop. Right. And that's happened to me many times in the past. And so that kind of came to mind in our first lecture. It's this, I had to share with people that in my career, many, many times, I've just stopped what I'm doing, and then I've waited for the next door to open. You know how that goes. And the one thing I said last night, which I want to share with people, is there's well, there are many people who have known about the McDougall program.
Right.
What I teach is not original. You can go back to the first chapter of Daniel in the Bible. You can go back to discussions of pharaohs 4,000 years ago. I've told you many times I stand on the shoulders of 4 great men. Let me see if that's got that right. Dennis Burkett, which I showed you.
That's right. Yes, sir. Last night. And Nathan Pritikin, which I showed you some videos last night. And Roy Swank, who did the pioneering work on MS at OHSU, and Walter Kempner, who did the pioneering work at Duke University. So I mentioned that last night, and I've talked to other people before, but I don't think I've ever made the statement I made last night. I have told people in the past that these 4 men are known as geniuses, and their intellectual capacity far, and I'm not being glib about this. I really mean it, because I know 3 of these 4 men personally, and the 4th one I followed him carefully and knew his disciples. But their genius far exceeded anything that I have or expect to ever have. But I have one thing, as I've mentioned to you in the past, that these men did not have, and that was I have Mary. So what I said last night, which I'll probably repeat again, is there was a galactic collision that occurred in 1971 that has never occurred before and likely will never occur again. And that was the meeting of John and Mary McDougall. Right.
And that happened in Grand Rapids, and then we moved to Hawaii. So that is unique, is this galactic collision that occurred in 1971 when John had the fortune of meeting Mary.
Right.
And spending the next 45 years with her, which I have. She's going to come down and tell us whether we're doing a good job or not. Right. She's up in the room. So we've been here 5 days, I think, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And I've given
4. You've given 4 lectures. Yes. Yeah.
But there are 2 things that I've said that I don't think I've said before with that emphasis. And one is, as we go through life, part of change is stopping doing what you've done before. Whether you know what's going to happen in the future or not, you just get to the point, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know.
Where you say, I can't do this anymore. And then you stop, and at my age, I know that the door next door always opens. It's hard when you're younger. And then the other thing I said that was worth coming to Kauai for is what I said last night, and that was this, there was this galactic event that happened. Where 2 things in the galaxy happened to come together, and I believe made a significant difference.
Oh,
and
of course.
That was Mary and I met. Yeah. We've been pushing the same old stuff for 45 years. There's Mary right now. What is the problem?
Oh, okay. I know that there is some noise in the background, but remember that we're live and we're in a public setting. So I'm going to see if, oh, there's
Hi, everybody.
Mary. One of the things you mentioned the night before, 2 nights ago, was, well, you talked a lot about vitamin D, because that's something that comes out all the time. And we've already done several webinars on this. So if you have a question about this, make sure you go and look at those webinars. But one of the things I heard you last night say, no, 2 nights before that, I hadn't heard you before, was that inflammation can cause vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah, well, what it causes is low vitamin D levels in the blood.
Okay.
You still have plenty of vitamin D in your body, but one of the products of inflammation is it's a byproduct. And those of you interested in biochemistry can look it up, or you can go to my March 2015 newsletter. You can look at the reference that I give there. There are probably a couple more scientific references, and you can go into the biochemical details. But one of the results of chronic inflammation, which is talked about so much, but in a practical term, chronic inflammation is chronically inflamed arteries,
right,
which gives you heart attacks, or chronically inflamed joints, which give you arthritis, or obesity is associated with inflammation. This is all true, but one of the byproducts of chronic inflammation is the production of substances that lower vitamin D level, vitamin D levels in the blood. So people who eat the Western diet, which 99% of people in this country do, they're chronically inflamed, and a byproduct of that inflammation is when you check your blood, your vitamin D levels are low. So when you stop the chronic inflammation by eating well, in other words, your arteries clean out, your arthritis goes away, which it does, then what happens is one side result is your vitamin D levels go up. Now, yesterday we were out on the boat, and I don't know whether I look a little red today.
No, actually, it looks good.
I was careful. I was careful about covering myself. You always, when you see me in the sunshine, I always have a hat on. Because Mary and I owned a couple of sailboats in our young life, and we spent our young days in our, must have been late 20s, early 30s, sailing between the islands on our sailboat. And of course, I was invincible, so I got more sunshine than I should. But you do need sunshine. You absolutely must have sunshine. So even though I had my hat on yesterday on the boat, and I'm going to go out again tomorrow, just to be on the water. There are other parts of my body I do expose, and I would encourage you to get out and get some sun.
Right.
And speaking of exposing my body, on what was the second lecture, I took off my shirt and I showed him my tattoo.
You did.
And what do you think?
It was worth the trip to Hawaii.
Trip to see my tattoo on my chest.
And actually I have a picture that I took, but it doesn't show the chest, but it shows you opening
my shirt off.
So I'm going to show it later.
So they'll have to come on another adventure where I bare myself.
That's right.
Oh, well.
Well, that's going to have to do
it. The tattoo says, "Do not cath, I will sue." And that's from my May 2016 newsletter, where I talked to you about the criminality of the heart surgery business.
Yes. One thing that you said, going back to vitamin D also, because people have a really hard time, I've noticed, believing when you say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that you would pretty much under no circumstances prescribe vitamin D, unless in one rare.
And actually, I did recently. I did recently prescribe vitamin D, and because this person met the criteria for prescribing it. And what the research says, and you can again start with my March 2015 newsletter, and then at the bottom of it there is linked to, I believe, 4 other newsletters that I've written, and you can find the scientific research that shows you clearly, this is, everybody knows this in the business, is that vitamin D has been shown to reduce fractures in only one subset of people, and those are elderly, white, institutionalized women. And it's not with vitamin D alone, you have to combine it with calcium. So I did meet a patient recently that met those criteria.
Right.
And I left her, and it was to the shock of Dr. Lim, who was in the office with me, but it really wasn't, because he knows the research too.
Right.
Is that, I said to the woman, I said, you meet the criteria. You're an elderly, white, institutionalized woman, and you're on calcium and D, not just D. So yes, I have prescribed vitamin D before.
Right.
But that's the only time I remember in my recent practice. In my practice, I think everybody should know, has involved me personally taking care of over 10,000 people.
Right.
And 6,000 in an institution or in a residential setting at our clinic or same thing in a hospital. Now, I'm a real doctor, ladies and gentlemen. I touch people, even you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I touched you when you were 70 pounds heavier. And I got to tell you, it was worth coming on the trip to see Gustavo in a bathing suit. He is far trimmer and handsomer than comes over on the internet.
Well, thank you.
I won't make you take off your shirt, but believe me, handsome specimen to say the least.
Well, thank you. Dr. McDougall, you mentioned that one of the main reasons why you don't prescribe vitamin D is because it's highly toxic.
It's highly toxic, yeah.
Okay.
Injectable and oral.
Either way.
Yeah, and I don't care which of your, quote, medical experts or vegan doctors say the difference. Say it's different, it's not true.
Right. And one of the people that were listening to the lecture asked you, how much can we eat in the McDougall diet? And you compared it to breathing or to water, because that's something that actually we had some questions being emailed this time, asking again, is it really, people cannot seem to believe that you can actually eat all you want if you eat the right food.
Right. I just want to say one thing before I go into that, and that is there are 3 research papers, and I published 2 of them, referenced them in my March 2015 newsletter on vitamin D. So you can see 2 of the papers, and then 1 more came out in the Archives of Internal Medicine since then, and all 3 show if you take vitamin D by pill or injection, you increase your risk of falls and fractures. Now, I don't care who you are in terms of a vegan health medical expert, you are wrong. And you got to stop telling people, I know you tell them to eat a healthy diet, a vegetarian, vegan diet, but you really need to stop telling them to take vitamin D, because you're doing far, far more harm than good. Now, let me go on to answer your question.
Right.
One person asked, and by the way, it was the thing about meeting people here, or at the weekend, like we're doing a weekend next weekend, where there'll be 250 people at our advanced study weekend. You can still come, but when you meet people, Gustavo, and I've had this chance on 3 occasions this week so far. You meet people, and it happens to even people listening online, and I'm sure to you too. And you'll meet somebody, like, for example, a man or a woman that looks 50 or 100 pounds overweight. And you go, my goodness, why do you keep, following this program? Or why are you here? That's one of my unfortunate biases. My goodness, you're still overweight. And then they come back to me, as they really should, and I'm embarrassed when they do, but really glad to. They come back to me and they say, oh, but by the way, I've lost 150 pounds since I started following you. Or and I'm not. This is really true. Somebody wrote me yesterday who's at the program, and I haven't personally. I asked them to introduce themselves here. They said, I just want you to know, I lost 163 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, maybe this person is trim. I met another guy on the sample yesterday who lost 70 pounds. You get this, you prejudge people. I do it too.
Yes.
You see them and you go, what? And then you hear their history. Well, I got off all my diabetic pills, and I've done everything you said. I've got all the results you said, but my journey's still going. So somebody asked me, can I really eat as much as I want? And my response was, well, can you breathe as much as you want, or can you drink as much water as you want? And the answer is, yes. God or nature or whatever you want to believe did not make a mistake in your design. Your stomach's not the wrong size.
Right.
And your appetite's not wrong. It's the kind of food that you're using to satisfy it is wrong.
Exactly. You know, someone here is asking the same. The comment is the same comment that someone made in your lecture. What if I live way up in northern Canada? You know.
Well, my response was.
What was your response?
Well, my response was, there have been people living for 50,000 years in northern Canada without supplements, and I also tell them that the Great Bear Forest, which goes from Vancouver to the southern border of Alaska, the Great Bear Rainforest.
That's right.
You know, with big trees and leaves, that is growing on an ultraviolet spectrum.
Of the available.
People say, how can I get enough vitamin D? And my son, we brought him up, and he's a great man. But what he tells his patients up in Portland is, he said, well, if there's no vitamin D, then why do you have solar panels on all your houses? There are these biases.
That's right. Well, it's a brainwash that we have all gone through with the media and the industry.
Doesn't stop.
One thing also that caught my attention, what you said, is that we can definitely live on potatoes alone, pretty much. But you said something about not on rice alone.
Live on rice or legumes alone because they're deficient in vitamin A and C.
Right.
So you would have to add a slice of orange or a flower to broccoli. We're going to have, I don't know if it's sold out yet or not, but you can find out next week, Friday. Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
So in 8 days we start.
Right.
In 8 days, we're going to have an advanced study weekend. That will be February 10th through 12th, 2017. So we're going to have an advanced study weekend, and one of the people that's coming is a fellow named Andrew Taylor, who is I would not be surprised if he's got more media attention than I've gotten after 40 years of work. He runs a website called SpudFit, and he's lived on potatoes and water alone for the last year and lost, I believe, 120 pounds. But he will be here.
Yes.
And or here, well, not in Kauai, here like in Santa Rosa, California. And he'll be talking. He'll be here. And also Kevin Hall, PhD, from the National Institutes of Health. So Kevin Hall will be here next week, and he's the guy that was hired by Gary Taubes, the low carbohydrate guru. Gary Taubes. Let me see if I get that right so you get it. Gary Taubes. And Gary Taubes, he's a very anti-carbohydrate guy and tells you that all the problems are sugar, and he's a little overweight himself, to say the least. But he hired Kevin Hall and the NIH to do a research project on low carb, in other words, the Atkins type diet, meat and dairy and butter, to compare that type of an approach with a high carbohydrate approach. And the results turned out just the opposite of what Gary Taubes expected. And Kevin Hall, actually, I sent all of you people who are on the newsletter, I sent you Kevin Hall's basic research papers, and I sent you a video that he did at New York University at Grand Rounds, clearly saying that people like Mark Hyman and Gary Taubes are wrong. These people are liars. And anyway, so I think I'm going to get Kevin Hall. I mean, I've got him scheduled. I've got everything's set. Hopefully the NIH doesn't throw another ringer in there because we've declared no conflict of interest. And so Kevin Hall will be here on Sunday morning. One of the top researchers, really one of the top researchers in obesity in the world. And so independent of conflict of interest that he had to publish, he did, I know, with great thrill, the fact that these low-carb diet gurus are wrong.
We should put a thing wrong.
Wrong, it really, in one of the slides, he had a picture of our new president with wrong. So anyway, if you eat all the starch you want, just like rural Asians and Africans and people from Central America, and we've talked about this all over again, your hunger drive is not wrong.
It's not wrong. No. Well, let's remind people that they can still register for the advanced study weekend.
Yeah, it's not sold out.
If it's not sold out, please go. I'll be there, of course, Dr. McDougall and all these amazing guests.
We have We have amazing speakers.
This
just
time,
mentioned
yes.
the most important speaker.
Oh,
The most
that's
important,
right.
and I had to
How
deal.
can we
I had to
leave
deal
out?
with it again this morning. She says, "You know, I'm really worried about my presentation. She's giving 2 next weekend.
I think she wants more money.
Probably. Well, how much
to
more can she?
increase the fee.
Well, I would pay her whatever she wanted. But Mary's going to be doing 2 presentations, which are presentations she's given over the last 30 years, but are so refined. And this may be the last time we do high-tech recording of the advanced study weekend. It's well, who knows? I have no advanced study weekend scheduled after next week.
This is the only one for this year.
This is the only one for 2017. I've got nothing scheduled for 2018. We have no future adventure trips scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
And
so this may be the last advanced study weekend.
this may be the last adventure trip.
It.
And you say, why? We still have our core business well scheduled, like 10-day programs and intensive weekends where all of our key speakers, Doug Lyle and Jeff Novick, and Mary and myself. Well, I'm sure I'm forgetting some really important people. But we're all our key staff. We'll talk to you. That'll be in May and September. We're doing intensive weekends. And we're still running 10-day programs, of course, usually sold out, where myself and Dr. Lim take care of people, take them off all their unnecessary medications, which, by the way, our published results, never contested. Our published results is that we get nearly 90% of people to reduce or stop their blood pressure and diabetic medication. But
and then they stay with the diet.
Well, we have 1-year results from Oregon Health and Science University that say 85% of people stick with the program.
Right.
But anyway, Mary will be in my eyes, the key speaker for next weekend, and she'll be professionally recorded.
That's going to be one,
And who else? Oh, we have Doug Lyle will be speaking,
and Doug Lyle should be our next webinar guest next week. We have tested 3 times, and it's working now. So we're going to test it yet one more time, and using another system, and hopefully it will work. Dr. McDougall, last night your lecture was one of the best.
You enjoyed it?
When you talked about the shoulders upon which you stand, and talked about Dr. Dennis Burkett.
Right, I showed videos of him, but you can all see them. I mean, they're all free. They're in my January 2013 newsletter. Just go there right now after the lecture, and you can learn about Dr. Dennis Burkett. You could watch him for an hour. It's the only video ever done of Burkett.
And the only video ever done of Nathan Pritikin.
Yeah, that's in my February 2013 newsletter.
Please watch these. These are incredible interviews.
And then I did interviews with Roy Swank, which are done on a home video camera, which you can find on my site. And then I also got permission to put a professional done video that the Swank Institute did of him. I put that, I believe, in my August 2016 newsletter. And then in my December 2013 newsletter, I put in the best information I could on Walter Kempner, because he, from Duke University, who, by the way, was the main supporter of Duke for 2 decades and was there for 7 decades, his program, The Rice Diet. In my December 2013 newsletter, I have 2 of his students, not really students, but people who learned from him. Robert Rosati and Francis Neelan. I have interviews with them, and they talk about Walter Kempner. Well, Walter Kempner would never allow his picture to be taken.
Right.
And so I never had a video of him, which is one of my great regrets in life. And of course, all these people have died. Nathan Pritikin is gone. Roy Swank is gone. Walter Kempner's gone. Dennis Burkett is gone. But I'm still here.
You're still here.
I'm still here.
Well, you know, one thing that was really... It's wonderful to hear these reminders over and over, that in the interview with Pritikin that he said is that he himself says that there were never any calcium deficiency cases found by the World Health Organization, and the same with protein, because we have some questions today about, again, protein and calcium. can you just?
Well, maybe it'll be answered now that Dr. Oz has decided the miracle of 2017 is a vegan diet. You know, you could go back and watch these interviews.
You've got to watch back and go back and watch these interviews.
Watch the interviews I did with Dennis Burke and Nathan Pritikin. The truth is that there's no such thing as calcium or protein deficiency. But the reality is the meat and dairy and fish and egg industries, they got all the money. And so they can lie whatever they want because it's not lying, it's just business.
It's business. And
so what if it kills your kid? You know, so what if your wife is dying of rheumatoid arthritis? It's all fair.
Right. Well, and all this, the people that we're talking about, is information that you mentioned, that it's known. It's been known for years. And you said something very striking, which is the truth is known.
Yeah.
So that was towards the end of the lecture last night. And you said, well, now what are we going to do? The truth is out there. It's already known. And one, what can you do to help us to get the truth out there? And we talked about social media and other ways of getting the word out.
Like what we're doing right now here, this is all free, live from Kauai. And, you have so graciously presented a platform where I look the best I've ever looked. And I want to thank you, Gustavo. It's social media. You can forward this webinar or pretty much everything on my website.
Exactly.
There's one other thing I haven't told you about.
Yes.
I haven't even told about to anybody. Not that it's a secret, but George Lomberg. George Lomberg used to be head of the American Medical Association. And he has become a friend of mine over many years. And I know George would be very pleased if I brought up our recent discussion over the last 3 days. He's the editor of Medscape, which is a very famous online medical journal, Medscape.
Right.
And George Lomberg wrote an article 5 days ago, I guess, and I've been in contact with George about this. George Lomberg. I've been in contact with George about his article. It's titled something to the effect, will it be global warming or nuclear holocaust that ends our time here on Earth? And of course, I found great empathy with that article. And I wrote George and I said, this is really a phenomenal article you wrote, George. And he clearly understands all the things about medicine. I understand. He doesn't understand the food issues as well as he should, but he's close. So the comments, if you look up this Medscape article, well worth your trouble, about will end times be global warming or nuclear holocaust. And if you're growing up, you've had this thought too. You may not want to have it there, but it's got to cross your mind. So I looked at the comments. Now, these are the medical doctors, Gustavo.
Mm-hmm.
These are intelligent people.
Educated.
Yeah. Educated people. And the comments came back, things like, oh, this is just a hoax. And so I wrote George back and I said, these must be trolls that are doing this. And he said, no, these are educated doctors. And I go, you got to be kidding me. And he says, no, these aren't, and there probably were 38 comments when I looked 2 or 3 days ago. There may be 100 now. My comment is there too. And there are really serious people who are educated, but in so much denial.
Right. Yeah. Well, educated, I've learned, it doesn't mean wise sometimes. There's a difference, and being able to look at information and process it and be open-minded. It's different from just being educated. And I think you can be highly educated and not see things that are important. But it is always a shock.
It's so troubling to me.
It is very troubling.
As a grandfather, and it should be troubling to you that people are allowed to say things that are scientifically untrue about diet, which I just told you about. I told you about some of the liars. Did you hear me call them liars? Send their attorneys my way. And but they get away with it. And when it comes to food, or the article I sent George the article I did on diabetes that published about
yes,
3-4 days ago. And his response was, no, it was phenomenal. This is the former head of the American Medical Association, George Odenberg. And he recognized pretty much everything I said was true, which you will too when you read the January 2017 newsletter about recent scams from the diabetic industry.
Which we're going to do a webinar on that.
We will, and this weekend, I'm going to do a lecture on the recent scams. This will be the weekend, February 10th through 12th, 2017. I'll be doing a lecture on the recent scams from the diabetic industry. And believe me, no one will come back and say that I exaggerated. They're just shocked when I was able to put it all together. And like I had somebody write me. Sometimes when I do these, like when we do these webinars, except we have hundreds of people online right now. But you can imagine, Gustavo, when I write these newsletters, which takes me often 2 weeks, or when you and I get together, which takes you tremendous effort, very little work on my part, we do these webinars. Sometimes I think I'm talking into a vacuum.
That's right. That's right.
Because the change in feedback is so imperceptible, but I know it's not true. We have 100,000 people that read our newsletters, and we sometimes get 50,000 people watching the webinars. So I know it's not true. But I got feedback a couple of days ago after I wrote about the scams of the diabetic industry from a diabetic person who had lost 53 pounds, gotten off all their diabetic medication, but they were being harassed by their physician to take medication, even though their blood sugars were almost normal. They were 120 milligrams per deciliter divided by 18 if you want international units. So the man was almost normal, and he's constantly being harassed by his physician. And all the research on the treatment of type 2 and type 1.5 and even type 1 diabetes is in that January 2017 newsletter. Ladies and gentlemen, it took me a lifetime to write that and 2 weeks to put it on paper. My work deserves half an hour of your time to not only read the newsletter, January 2017, on the scams from the diabetic industry, but to take and hit the links. There must be 50 or 75 links in that article that take you to the original PDF files of the research that shows there have been 6 major studies, and only 6. And they all show aggressive treatment of diabetes kills and harms people. And I showed you the 3 new studies, which were just published in the last 2 years from the diabetic industry, using these new diabetic drugs and claiming that they, and your doctor's hearing this, claiming that these new drugs are so wonderful and they significantly reduce death and heart disease and life by 1% or 3%. And remember, these studies that involve almost 30,000 people, all 3 were paid for by the drug industry. And so when you go to the newsletter, January 2017, and you go to the 3 studies, and by the way, I showed you the front pages from the New England Journal of Medicine. And so you can read the front page, but also you can click on the link.
Right.
And thanks to modern technology, you can have the paper right in front of you. And you can take it into your doctor. And you can say, I mean, good grief, you're the customer. You're the one being killed and charged for this advice. You can take it into the doctor and say, look, here's the studies on the drug, this new diabetic drug you've given me. And
yes.
I know the vacuum's bothering you, but it is live. So anyway, it's all there. It's all free. It's up to you.
Well, and again, go to the website and sign up for the free newsletter so that you can get it.
There are no gifts.
One person wrote last night about this is a type 2 diabetic and saying that eating out at restaurants, it doesn't seem to getting in control of the diabetes. And of course, we know you've talked about eating out, of how oils and fats are there disguised. So eating out is not a good idea for anybody, much less a diabetic.
Well, unless you come, you're going to go. Okay. Gustavo is, he really wants this production as nice as possible, so he's going to go ask them to turn off the vacuum. But the restaurant industry, they're in there to make the customer as happy as possible. I can't tell you the number of vegan restaurants that have gone out of business that I've known over the last 40 years. They've gone out of business because the customer wants, they want rich food. They want rich food. So they want the cheesecake and the dairy and all those things. Did you get it straightened out?
Yes. So please give us 5 minutes and then you can finish your vacuuming. Okay. Dr. McDougall, you do recommend B12. And one question that I haven't heard before, and I think is a good question, is
let me say, glucophage, which is macrophage, or which is, excuse me, metformin, which is discussed in great detail, the first line drug therapy from your doctor, which doesn't work. It causes B12 deficiency. But you'll read that in the January 2017 newsletter. That's one of the leading scams in the diabetic industry, is to prescribe metformin, which is glucophage. But ask me the question.
Yes, we all take, well, I do, you do take vitamin B12. What about the injectable version of B12?
That's the way I was trained 50 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, is that the way you treat B12 deficiency, which is a serious problem, it's called pernicious anemia, is to give people a shot of B12. On rare occasions that may be necessary, but if you take sufficient amounts of oral B12, even if you have a severe gastrointestinal problem, most times the oral preparation will work. On very rare occasions, I mean, like 1 in a million, you'll need injectable B12.
Right.
But,
okay.
Oral B12 as a pill, it's a whole discussion. If you go to my website, as I encourage you to do, you hit the search engine, you put in vitamin B12, you'll find an article I wrote. Oh, the Starch Solution book has a similar article. My whole discussion on B12. And again, we invite people, don't we? We invite people who have contrary opinions to write webinar at drmcdougall.com, and you will give them special prominence to get on this show and to explain why I'm exaggerating or incorrect.
Exactly.
And we've offered that invitation for 2 years.
Yes,
and we've yet to have anybody take it.
That's right.
But
so
you have to be a serious, credible person, not a troll. Like George Lombardi, he just thinks they're trolls. He thinks they're serious, intelligent people.
Right.
But we'll be glad to have you on, and you can, you can tell us why we're wrong, why I'm wrong.
Why you're wrong. Well, any other thing you would like to discuss, Dr. McDougall? If I thought that at the end of the webinar, I'll show a few pictures.
Why don't you do that?
But I don't want to.
No, I not at all. I think you've been very gracious to spend some of your vacation time here in Kauai to put this webinar on. Thank you, Gustavo.
Yes, well, it will be up later on. What I do every time we finish a webinar is I download it. Sometimes I edit a little, and then we have to upload it again, and then one of your technical persons, Keith, then he uploads it. So the whole process takes several steps, but it should be up tonight or tomorrow.
And
okay.
And why do I keep doing this?
Well, because you know that it makes a difference, and because you know that you can do it from the comfort of your house, and because you like me, right?
I like you, and I still think we're going to win. Just like many of you out there, we're optimistic is that we are going to win, and certainly the world's worth saving, and unnecessary sickness should not be tolerated, and the drug companies and the food companies, they should not be allowed to hurt your children and your spouse. And that's what I believe. So we keep doing it. If you continue to be patient and tune in, to send your friends and relatives to the webinar and the website, and the newsletters, and boy, do I like controversy.
Yes, you do.
The problem is they have never given me the stage. But Dr. Oz, the new invention for 2017. Go to our discussion board. You hit the link. Yes. There it is. Dr. Oz has discovered the new miracle curing disease for 2017. That's a vegan diet. I bet sometime Dr. Oz will say, and I really would appreciate his attention, This is not meant as a criticism. The man has a powerful microphone.
Yeah.
Someday he'll say to you, just wait. You know, if we're all still around, he'll say 2018. The miracle of 2018 is a starch-based diet.
That's right.
And
yeah, because saying that the vegan diet is, you know, I think that's misleading, because I used to be a very obese vegan, and the secret is that it's a low-fat vegan and that it's starch-based.
Well, Dr. Oz, good luck, good luck, sir. I know, in fact, I know he's been well aware of the truth for at least 15 years. But you have to keep the show on the air. So I do understand. I was thrown off. I had the most popular syndicated radio show on the West Coast. We used to get 2,000 calls a night until my sponsors listened to my show. After I was on for 3 years, syndicated, and 5 years all over the North Bay. And then my sponsors listen to my show, and they go, my God, why do we have this guy on anymore? So I lost all my syndicated shows in 3 weeks. But nobody ever told me why.
Nobody.
Be careful, Dr. Oz. Be careful. You could be put off the air. So don't go too far in saying that vegan is a miracle cure 2017. You risk your show.
All right. Well, thank you also for taking time from your vacation to do this.
My pleasure.
And so I just have a few photos that were fun, not many, and I just wanted to share some of them with people here. And let's see. Oh, I hear a phone, but well, here's a neat one. This is when we wait a minute. This is when we went tubing one of the days.
Oh, you and I?
And that's Mary.
Let me see. That's Mary. Okay, good.
And this is the area where they filmed Jurassic Park. So that was really neat to see. Yeah. So that's.
I'm sorry, I'm so biased.
Look how wonderful Mary looks.
She looks so good with you. Yeah.
So that was one. And yesterday we went. We went to the canyon, and I'm sorry I cannot remember the actual name of the canyon.
It's called the Little Grand Canyon of Kauai.
Right.
Something like that.
Right. And I thought I had a photo here, but well, I don't. So I wanted to show you one of the adventurous things that I did
Oh, that's you. That's you,
yeah.
Mike. Look at you. Yeah, I told you he's handsomer and thinner than he comes across on video. We should have got a shot with you and I on the tubes together.
Yes, we have it, but I haven't gotten the picture yet. Someone else took the picture.
Oh, okay.
And he's going to email it to me, and then we can show it. And just a couple of pictures of the food so that everybody can see this, because the food is just out of this world. That was one of my lunches. The mashed potatoes that they have here, I promise they put some
put mashed potatoes in it.
Something, I don't know what, but they're so fluffy and they taste so good. That was one of the meals, and here's another one. And this one is, I think that was a dinner, if I'm not mistaken, right there. And he had some mashed potatoes again, and pasta and some greens, and the beans.
And it's mostly starch.
It's mostly starch, but my goodness, it tasted good. And then let me see if this picture is here.
Oh, you know the stories. This is the fun part for me about not only the weekends but the adventure trips. People come up to me, and we were talking about one of the people earlier. She came up to me, and she still has a little bit of weight to lose. And I told you about my biases earlier. She came up to me a couple of cleaning programs. She said, "But you must realize that I cured my lupus, and I lost 60 pounds."
Right.
And so you can imagine how good that makes me feel.
Of course. You never get tired of hearing that.
I never get, and that's why we'll keep doing the adventure trips, although we have no future one scheduled.
There are no scheduling.
And no future advanced study weekends scheduled. But we do have intensive weekends.
We have to hope. Dr. McDougall, this is you here. This is the the drum roll here when you showed.
Oh, my tattoo.
When you took off your shirt and you had all that light.
I can't see it.
I know. You can't see the tattoo from there, but I wanted to show people how you're opening the shirt.
You can show my May 2016 newsletter. It shows you my tattoo that says, "Do not catch,
yes.
I will sue."
Right.
And that's to my colleagues who are cardiologists. I will sue. And we're thinking of putting together T-shirts.
Yes.
So you can take these T-shirts that we'll sell. We'll sell T-shirts to say it's the food or Starchivore now, or it's all in my head. I'm thinking of putting together a T-shirt that says, "Do not cath." That's to the cardiologist. I'm saying this. "Do not cath, I will sue." So when you kind of feel bad and you're thinking of going to the hospital, your wife or husband or child can take and slip this T-shirt on you before the ambulance picks you up for your broken leg or whatever, because they're going to put you in the cath lab.
Yes.
To get before you get your leg fixed. I assure you, May 2016 newsletter.
Or you can buy 7 of them so that you can wear one every day under your shirt in case that something happens.
Oh yeah, that's right. We could sell them in sets of 7.
One a day. One a day. So then
you end up in the hospital with a broken hip. They don't take you to the cath lab and kill you.
That's right.
We'll make a bargain on that.
Okay.
Do not cath, I will sue.
Well, very good. This has been a very enjoyable. I know that a lot of the questions were not answered. This was a special type of webinar. Be patient with us, and we will get your questions answered, or I will redirect you to the webinar where the question was answered. So
it was fun.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And tomorrow you have another adventure.
I'm going out on the schedule again. Mary and I are going to go out because we're just going to sit there. We'll be with the grandkids. We've got 3 of our grandkids here and 2 of our nephews. And we're all going back out on the ocean, look at the beautiful fish, enjoy the ocean. It was probably 6 whales yesterday.
Oh, it's just so beautiful. Well, I will see you all on next Friday if you make it to Santa Rosa. I encourage you to register and go to the Advanced Study Weekend. And if not, next Thursday we're having the webinar with Dr. Lyle.
Lots of 10-day programs scheduled.
Lots of 10 days.
Where we will take you off your unnecessary drugs and get you away from doctors. That's our goal.
That's the goal.
That's our goal.
And I will leave.
Not that doctors aren't necessary and hospitals aren't necessary. It's just I'm trying to give you the big picture. You all understand. You understand what I'm saying. Get out of the business.
Get out of the business.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy with a starch-based.
That's one approach. Wear your safety belts. Don't go climbing on the rocks out here. You might fall. I mean, there are lots of sensible things to do, but the food is. We got to stop.
Okay, I will leave the screen on for a few minutes with a view of the ocean, and I will see you all next week with Dr. Lyle. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.